Hello everybody, this is Kyrix with another edition of This Week in Kyrix. Today is Wednesday, August 5th of 2015. I'm gonna start with the HeroClix report. Except I can't because I didn't get to go today. Not because I was busy, but because no one bothered to tell me that it was, in fact, going to have a game today. Anubis didn't tell me even though he was over here the other day. And the judge, admittedly, has trouble getting a hold of me, but he could have told Anubis and had Anubis come over here and tell me, hey, we're doing Age of Ultron today. And they didn't. So when Anubis came over to wait for me, or to wait with me, rather, for the judge, I was at McDonald's doing internet stuff. I came back, and here's his bike. Strange. Finally occurred to me to call him, and nothing. And then I go out to run an errand, and I come back, and my niece's like, did you know that he was here? Or that the judge came to pick you up? I'm like, what? So I called him, like, what happened? Oh, it's a HeroClix tournament. Oh, which one? Age of Ultron. I'm like, why didn't he wait for me? Why didn't he tell me this? So I'm quite pissed, because any other time, he's all about getting me to these tournaments, or at least telling me there's a tournament. And this is a big deal tournament. This is the kind of tournament that's supposed to move product. You know, this is a fucking booster draft. And yet, not a word to me. I didn't know it was tournament time. I mean, I could assume, but there's nothing to know for sure. So, nothing for me. I didn't get to go. I didn't get a chance to pull a chase and take some money off what I owe the judge. I didn't get a chance to pull a super rare. And I'm sure that my boosters aren't still there for me to buy later. So, to say I'm pissed is a bit of an understatement. Good boy, Kisa. He's in his litter box that just freshly cleaned. Because now I actually have litter to replace it with. Anyway, Star Trek news. There's none of that either, because I'm pretty sure there's no kit this month. However, there is some Star Trek news that's not related to that. I sold my extra prize. You may recall from the Q Continuum that I had an extra Kyrix and an extra set of the Q Continuum cards. And that sold for the minimum amount of $40, but fuck it. That's fine. You see, when I set those, I basically decided, okay, the least I'm willing to take for these is $40. So I set that as the minimum bid. Basically, if that's sold, I'm guaranteed to get at least as much as I'm willing to take. Wow, he's going nuts in there. I need to put some more litter in later. So yeah, I made $40, which meant that I was able to put an extra 50, basically, well, an extra 35 in my case, on the power bill today. Now, we basically have, let's say 11? No. 7. We have an entire week, 7 days, to come up with another, let's say $390. Well, technically another $180 to be safe, and that'll clear up last month's bill and hopefully allow us an extension on this month's bill. Hopefully. To that end, John is going to be going to day labor again today. Because he has the job, but the guy doesn't need him this week, so he's going to try and get another job. And if he doesn't go out today, meaning they don't have work for him, he's going to try and get in touch with his uncle, from whom he can hopefully borrow the money we need. Also, I do not have a timer set because I changed the options in the menu. The options now settle for me autosaving once every hour. So when we see the autosave, we're done. But that's not all the Star Trek news. Yes, I made $40, and there's going to be a bit of a squeeze because I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. Here's the $40 that will pay off my bill, and it even comes in on roughly the 24th, and my bill comes in on the 26th. However, I kind of forgot an important detail about PayPal. When I transfer something from my bank to PayPal, or PayPal to my bank, it takes a couple of days. more time than I actually am going to have. So I might, what I'm probably going to do is see if my mom will loan me the 40, and I will give it to her as soon as mine comes in. Is it the best? No. Kinda sucks. Is it the only option I have? Pretty much. Borrowing it from someone, be it my mother, my aunt, roommates, someone. Someone I'm gonna have to borrow the money from. Just no getting around it, really. I love how this kind of disappears. I also hate how this kind of disappears. But there is still more Star Trek news. When I paid PayPal the other day, because I do that, I have to pay PayPal, my credit that is, I noticed, hey, I owe $25, and hey, there's still $3 left on here, giving me $28. Now, as I've stated, I don't leave that money for PayPal to just eat, although it hasn't been eating it yet. Go me. So I've been using it to get Star Trek stuff for me. In this case, the Kazon Nistrum Raider and the Kazon Ugla Razek. 2 little Kazon ships. Kazon, horrible faction. However, it's also a small faction, one that I can finish easily. There is also the Kazon Relora Sankur, which I already have. It was a Resistance is Futile blind boost, which I bought all of mine. Which, yeah. But with these 2 other Kazon ships, and the ship I already have, I will have the entire faction completed. I will probably never use them, but I have them, and that's nice. No. I will say this about the Kazon. The Kazon are the mirror image of the Bajoran, in that it's a reversal mirror. Because the Bajorans have fantastic cards and horrible ships, if you don't count Deep Space Nine, which is also a Federation ship, so I don't count it. The Kazon have really good ships and horrible cards. So that's the thing, if I were to cross-faction the Kazon stuff, I'd get pretty good stuff, because the Kazon have really solid stats. They got nice firepower, decent evasion for a ship their size, and decent enough hull and shields. Not anything to write home about. It's not like the hull on, say, a Romulan ship, which are fucking known for their hull, or the shields on Federation ships, which are pretty good. But it gets the job done, you know? If I were to take some Federation weaponry and some Romulan tech, etc., and just go to town on those things, ooh, I could make something of them. I really could. Because on top of that great firepower, they have 180-degree front arcs. No rear arcs, as I can recall, but 180 front arc, and that's good with that kind of firepower. They're ships that would very strongly benefit from Admiral Q. Their whole ability of, yeah, I'm gonna swing around and just shoot the fuck out of you. That's a good power. I'm actually excited to get my Kazon just done, to just fill them out in my big folder of Star Trek stuff. Because I have one of those big album folders, you know? And it's where I keep all of my Star Trek cards. And even though I will probably never use the Kazon, I'm excited to have them, because they fill in gaps in my book. And that makes me very excitable. And I have changed how my book was laid out. Originally I had it so that it was in sections, like all the ships went in one section, all the captains went in one section, and all the admirals in a section, and they were done in order of points, then alphabetical, and initiative. Well, initiative first, then points, then alphabetical order. So, for example, if the USS Excelsior and the USS Hood cost the same, and they do, the Excelsior would come first because it starts with an E, and the Hood starts with an H. And they would both come before the Azimur. Even if they were the same point value, because the Azimur, and I know I'm mangling that name, but it's the only way I can think to pronounce it. But the Azimur is a Romulan warbird, and these are Federation Excelsior class ships. You know? But the problem is, if I got a new ship like, say, the Valdor, which is a Romulan ship. Well, no, I kept gaps in, like, oh, this is where the Valdor goes. This is where this goes. you know? But let's say the Vrax came out, which it did this month, actually. And that's a Romulan Valdor/Mogai class ship that originally was not in my notes. Well, I'd have to move everything. First for the ship, then for the cards. You get the idea. So what I did instead was I separated them by faction. So the Federation has its own set, and then even if they would normally go on the same page, the Klingons start a new page. So I might very well have, like, a page that's just one single Federation crew. Or let's say Klingon crew, because Klingons don't yet have fighters in them. My order goes ship, admiral, captain, question mark, if they have them, tech, or no, captain, elite talent, question mark, tech, weapon, crew, squadron. Because they're squadron upgrades as well. So, a Klingon crew, even if there's a page with just a single Klingon crew, I'm not going to start the Romulans, I'll start them on the next page. So that if a new Klingon ship comes out, I move all the Klingons one space to the left, and then just continue. You know? And it's a much better system than what I had. Which isn't saying much, because I had kind of a crappy system. Let's not mince words here. Now, I know I did that for a reason. Why did I do that? Let me get up here and maybe figure it out. Also, did I plant that, or was that always there? Okay, what the fuck did I plant this here for? There was a reason for it. I don't know. I don't know why I put that there. So yeah, I've got my Kazon ships coming out, and that has been quite exciting. It shouldn't, but it does. I'm actually very happy that I'm getting my Kazons. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One, two, three, four. One more. So yeah, happy for my Kazon for reasons I can't even explain. But I'm happy. And I think 2 more out should do it. To block this out evenly. And pretty soon I should be finding different glass to do my colors with, or to do my sky chamber with. I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with this damn thing. I'm going to do something with it. Mark my words. Good boy, Kisa. Tear it up. Okay, now what have I been up to? That, John and I have been working on Lego Jurassic World. However, I am now doing it solo. Again, I've said this countless times in the videos themselves. This is nothing about John. It's not that John did something for me to kick him out of the videos. Basically, we're on collection now. Every important thing that's not about 100%ing the game or about getting trophies for the game has been done with me and John. Now it's just me wandering the maps, getting all the mini kits, getting all the gold bricks, which is tedious as all fuck, let me tell you. It's boring too. But it's also time consuming. And to be honest, I wanted the game done by like the 26th to the 28th, something like that. I wanted it done last month, and it isn't, because part of it is John is now trying to work, so he's either out getting day labor, which is time-consuming in and of itself, or he's actually out working because he got a job via day labor, which is even more time-consuming. Now, day labor, getting there requires him to be up at 4. I actually have an alarm set to make sure that by 3:50 I'm in there making sure he's up, because he's got to get showered and basically be out of here by 4:30. He wants to make it in time. So he has to go to bed early. Now, I don't wake up until like 1:30 in the afternoon. So we can't really do anything. Because he gets home, or he basically, when he works at night, which he does when they need him, he leaves at like 7. And gets home, I don't know when, but long after I'm asleep. And he sleeps until about, let's say, 4. Which means we would have a window when he works of about 3 hours to get anything done. And these videos tend to take an hour. So, and they tend to wear him out because they're stressful and boring, because now we're in hunting mode. Not just figuring out the level, it's figuring out how to get every single mini-kit. Less work now that I actually have the guide downloaded, but still. And when he actually has days off, we wait until late, because that's the other thing, is he doesn't want to do it until about 6 or 7 when the sun goes down, so he's not getting glare. So if he works, we can't do it at all. And if he doesn't work, well, then we play, but he's so exhausted that he falls asleep. I've actually had to wake him up 2 or 3 times a video for the 3 videos that we did this. And I'm not mad at him for that. I understand completely why he's so tired. And he has every right to be as tired as he is. But this schedule, as we're using it, is unsustainable. I would be lucky to be done by mid-September with this schedule. So I basically said, look, if you want, I can solo this. I can solo with the rest. You did the important stuff with me. He's like, yeah, I want to do it, but I understand. And I'm like, he's like, well, call me if you need me on the 2-player stuff. And there really isn't too much that I need 2 players for. There have been like 3 times when I just activated the second controller for a second to do something. I am, however, going to have him in the final video, whatever that is. Just so that he can give his thoughts on the project, you know, and so that I can give my thoughts. I basically want to finish the game and run the credits one last time with the 2 of us just running around doing stuff, you know, and get his final thoughts on the game as I'm giving mine. And then turn that in and get whatever's next, you know? But again, he hasn't been kicked off the project. I've given him an out for the part that he's bored with. You know, I mean, and I don't blame him for being bored with it. To me, this part's fun, but it's also very stressful and very tedious. I enjoy it, but I could absolutely sometimes just like, Argh. It's stupid shit. Like, and the game doesn't help. Like, one of the videos I just finished was getting the last sick dinosaur. Well, there were 2 left, and I had to go to a different island for one of them. But I was on the Jurassic World island to do them. And I had it loaded up so that it would show me on the map where it was, and it wasn't there. Because the game glitched and didn't load the fucking dinosaur. So I'm thinking, maybe I got this one, and for some reason it hasn't done it. Maybe it's on a different island. I come back, and sure enough, it's there. It just hadn't loaded the first time. Stupid shit like that makes the game harder. The very last level of the game, in story mode, we had to do 3 times. 3! The first time I loaded because I thought, we basically hit a wall. We couldn't figure out what to do, and I'm thinking maybe the game didn't load something properly. Maybe it glitched. It does that sometimes. So, I reloaded the game, and we got through it. Like you do. Then we get to this part where we need 2 raptors for something. And his raptor, no fault of his, it loaded this way. His raptor's stuck in an endless loop of, oh, I'm in this electrical thing, let me back up. Oh, I'm in this electrical thing, let me back up. And it was literally impossible for us to finish the game. So we had to load up again. And we got to that part and found out that there was, no joke, about a minute of gameplay after that part. All we had to do was I do the switch, or he does the switch and I go through it. One of the two. One of us does the switch, the other one goes through it, and then that's game. That's literally how stupid this was. We were on the last part of the game, and it glitched us out. So I was understandably quite pissed, and he has an even shorter temper than I do. Not that I'm known for my short temper. I actually have a very slow-burning temper. It takes a lot to genuinely piss me off. Annoy me? No, I'm easy to annoy. But to make me mad? That actually takes some work. You have to work at that. But I was pissed. He wasn't feeling too hot about it either. But again, we did all the important stuff as a team together. And admittedly, part of it is because I keep doing most of this. I'm used to doing this. This is a thing. This is my job, you know? This is the kind of shit that I do all the time, so I tend to do 90% of the work myself, which leaves him nothing to do. So naturally, he gets bored, and who wouldn't? You know? If I did that, you'd get bored. It's a fact. So basically, I gave him the out. I'm like, if you want, I can do this myself. He's like, okay. So, yeah, I don't intend to cut him out. I intend to do 90% of the tedious stuff, and then just save a little bit for us to finish up, and then just fuck around for a little bit. Then finish the level, roll the credits if it lets us again, and just while the credits are rolling, because I do like to end a video on the credits if I can. While the credits are rolling, just talk about the game, like how much fun it was, how silly it was. And it is silly. It's a silly game. It's a Lego game. Of course it's silly. But even for a Lego game, it's pretty fucking silly, and I love that. I really do. It's very enjoyable. And like I said, there's really only 2 points of frustration I had with him, and they're minor nitpicks. I mean, I've had worse frustrations with Anubis. It's nothing that would disqualify him from future projects at all. But one is his, and this is me as a dinosaur fan, his insistence on basically using Land Before Time terms, like, oh, that's a 3-horn, you know, that's a flyer, etc. Or that's a long neck, you know, just, that always irked me as a child that they used those. Because as a kid, I knew all the names. I knew that's a brontosaurus. You know, back before the term apatosaurus had really come into the vernacular. You know, like, oh, that's a brontosaurus, that's a stegosaurus, that's a triceratops, that's a styracosaurus, that's a megalosaurus, that's an allosaurus, that's a ceratosaurus, that's a dilophosaurus, that's a nycthiosaur, you know, that kind of shit. I knew these things. That's a psittacosaurus, and I might be pronouncing that wrong. That's a Parasaurolophus, and that was a name I could not pronounce as a child. You know, it's just, that's shit that I grew up with, so it just irks me a little bit. And again, nothing that would ever get him kicked out of another Let's Play. If he wants to join me on something, like, I want to have him on the Little Big Planet run. I want to have him on Tales of Symphonia. You know? And if he's still living here when I get all that stuff I need, because he and my niece have talked about moving out, not anytime soon. For example, they both said, long before we move out, we're going to make sure that we've got your bills stabilized, you know? Which is good, because I want my bills stabilized, like, a lot. But, yeah, if he's still living here around the time, And if we're still on talking terms, which I don't see us not being, we get along well enough, you know. But, because for all I know, they might move across the state, or they might move into this same complex. They've got little one-bedrooms here that they might be able to afford between the two of them, you know? Ow. But yeah, if we're still on good talking terms, and they've got a PS3, if he moves out, or if he's still living here, I intend to have him on those LPs. I really want Little Big Planet 1 and 2, and later 3, if things go well, to be a multi-platform event. And by that I mean not just everybody crowded around my PS3. I want my PS3, John's PS3, Anubis' PS3, and maybe Sammy's PS3, if she has a TV working at the time. I want us to play over the internet. You know? Like, John... We have a second PS3 in the house. They want to return it, and I need to ask about that. And just get one at, like, a pawn shop or at a game store or something, which I'm fine with. You know, that's one less thing I gotta worry about, you know? If they let me return it, great. Otherwise, we're kind of stuck with the damn thing, you know? But, I want to be on my PS3, him on his, Anubis on his, and Sammy on hers. And just the four of us together play Little Big Planet. I'm even willing to get copies of the game for Anubis and John because they're not that expensive. It's like $10. You know? I can get like $10-20 copy of that game. And just the four of us just play together. And the best part is, since we'll be running on my game file, we can they can play through their game entirely if they want. They can play through every level so that they know what's coming up and they're not going in blind. And I can practice on one of my main files and then do my Let's Play file, have them all jump in for their own files with whatever costumes they want to have so that we all have our own preloaded costumes. Mine is actually a starter costume. I have Genghis Khan. And how can I not use that? You know, I'm such a fucking Genghis Khan fanboy, or Genghis Han, as I believe it's actually pronounced. But Genghis Khan just sounds better to my American sensibilities, so we're gonna run with that. But yeah, that's gonna be my costume, and they can manufacture their own and just load them into my game. You know, they miss out on nothing for doing that. About to say, do I still have some obsidian? Apparently I do. Oh dear, that's a whole lot of stuff. Alright, I'm gonna chop down a lot of trees right now. But yeah, that way they can all contribute to their own things. And enjoy the game, as it were. They can have whatever costumes they want. We don't have to build it as we go along. And we can just play together and have fun over the internet without us all crowded around my computer. We'll have all the shit hooked up. Like, we'll have our Bluetooths in or whatever headsets they're using at the time. And it'll be awesome. And a lot of fun. And everyone will be peaceful and happy at once. As it should be. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be a great LP. And Tales of Symphonia, my only main regret is that has to be local. Because I would love to multi that over the internet. And part of me wishes I could get Skinner over here for that one. Because I'm sure he would love to be able to be here for that moment so that he could watch everyone's blind reactions. But on the other hand, he can also watch it online. And the real appeal to this is just seeing people who don't know what happens find out what happens, you know? And I think he'll enjoy it a little bit more if instead of 2 people being there doing it with me blind. There are 3 people doing it blind, and he still gets to watch. You know? I think he'll enjoy that quite a bit. That is not an axe, sir. That is an axe. I forgot what I was even making. Oh, it was the cactus goo. That's what it was. But, like I said, that'll be a lot of fun. And then there's Tales of Symphonia 2, which will be a lot of fun because it'll be double blind, or it'll be fully blind, because even I've never played that. So I won't have a leg up on them this time. Now, I've heard bad things about Tales of Symphonia 2, and they're probably true, but I don't care. And keep in mind, I'm pretty sure they're bad compared to the first one, which is a fucking masterpiece. That's easily one of my top games of all time. It's right up there with the Legacy of Kain series, which even though it's 5 games, I count them as 1 because the stories are so interwoven that you can't play one game and know anything, you know? Soul Reaver stands alone. Soul Reaver 2 stands well enough alone. Defiance stands well enough alone. You just won't understand what the fuck's going on. Because they're meant to be part of an epic saga. And they are a very epic saga. And if you don't view them as a collected work, you're not going to know what the hell's going on. You know? Because they are. They're a collected work. And Symphonia didn't need a sequel. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I love sequels. But this game, if it didn't have a sequel, then fine. You know? Nothing bad would happen if they didn't actually make the sequel. However, I'm still looking forward to it. Matter of fact, one of my huge joys is the fact that it came out on the PS3 as part of a collection. Because I had the original on GameCube. I still have it, in fact. I'm only sure where one of the discs is at the moment, but there are 2 discs. I have them both. It's probably in its box where it's supposed to be, but yeah, Tales of Symphonia is very much a thing. But the problem is the sequel was released on the Wii. I do not own a Wii. Up until recently, I had no intentions of owning a Wii. And even then, I don't intend to have a lot of Wii games. I really just want one for the Pokemon Rumble games, which I think are mostly on the Wii U, and for Fortune Street. I mean, I kind of want to get a Wii U, get Fortune Street, and Pokemon Rumble U, and a couple other games like that, and I'll be happy. Matter of fact, if we are able to send this PS3 back, you mark my fucking words, I will have a Wii U by the end of the month. I will find a way to pay that. You know? I will send away, I will have my Wii U, I will have Fortune Street finally. Because I'm about 96% positive that the Wii U plays games. You know? And if it does, then mark my words, I'm gonna own those games. Because I want them so badly. Another news, my 3DS is acting funny. It's, the colors are off. Not on the top screen, just the bottom. And it's off in the way, like, if you mess with your tint or your color bar, which I honestly may have fucked with a setting and not known it. But I think it's just at the bottom screen. It's not going out, but it's definitely malfunctioning. And I want to see if there's a place I can get it fixed cheaply. If it's even possible to fix. And if it is possible to fix, then while I'm at it, I'm going to have them fix my R button, because that thing doesn't register half the time. But, again, when we get our bills stabilized, and we got 100 down on it, so we're not unpaid completely. We chunked about a third of last month's bill, and this month's bill's lower. Like, last month's bill was 270, part of that was an activation fee, now we're back down to like 218 where we're supposed to be. So the bills are stabilizing, plus we got a new air filter for our air conditioner, so the next month's bill is probably going to be even lower than that, you know? Because none of us have really, except Mom, and she doesn't really pay attention to half the house, none of us have really had to change air filters before, so none of us thought to do it until last month, until July, really. So as a result, we've had the same air filter since February. And we found out, much to my delight, that the complex supplies the air filter, and we just have to install it. And I'm fine with this. That's free air filters for us, you know? So basically, we're going to get a new one every month. And if we don't need it that month, then we're just going to hold it so that we have it for next month, for when it does go bad. In case we don't notice until the office closes. Because to be fair, I had been meaning for about a week to ask about the air filter before I finally did. And on other news, you'll hear us talk about this during LEGO Jurassic World, during one of the last episodes John was in. The pool rules for the complex have changed. To the point where they close at 5. They didn't used to close at all. And I'm fine with them closing, but 5? No. I like to swim at night, damn it. And like John and my mom and a bunch of other people pointed out, lots of people in this complex don't even get off work until 5 or 6 o'clock. So, do they not get to swim at all? I don't think this is going to last. I really don't. I think enough people are going to complain that it's going to have to be switched back. But yeah, anyway, I have no idea when my actual internet will be back. So, in preparation, I've downloaded a bunch of GameFAQs guides so that I have them. Like, for games that I'm considering, like Front Mission 3, which I own. It's owned via PlayStation Network, but I still own it. I just don't have a physical copy, that's all. Front Mission 3, Breath of Fire 3, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 6, you know. Final Fantasy 6 I didn't need one for. I have the strategy guide, and I know almost everything there is to know about that game. So, that's not a thing. I'm debating the PlayStation version of Final Fantasy 5 because I never finished my actual SNES LP of it. And I may never finish, I don't know. We'll see. It may just exist in its unfinished form, to be completed at a later date. I don't fucking know. But, like I said, Xenogears. Dragon Ball Z Xenoverse is probably going to be my next LP, and if not that, then Way of the Samurai 3, which will not be 100%ed just because of how much there is to that game. And there's a lot to it. That game is so freeform and floaty, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I might get all the endings. But all the companions, all the swords, there's just so much shit to do in that game. And the funny thing is, every time I play that, it's right around the time that I'm watching Rurouni Kenshin, so I'm in Kenshin mode, and I'm just non-lethally fighting. And one version of the game that I actually have a lot of fun with is the single-stroke setting. There's basically difficulty settings, you know, and there's one where a single slash from a sword kills anything, including you. So if you are not perfect in your swordsmanship, you can die in your very first fight. And it's really kind of cool that way. And as a result, it makes a bunch of bosses really easy that otherwise wouldn't be. Because you get the drop on them. And by bosses, there aren't really bosses per se, but they're lead characters. Like, there's this one that for a particular ending I had to kill him. You know, even though I was working for him. So how I ended up doing it was I just did a single stroke and then defended against everyone else. And one of the cool things about it is at any point during dialogue with anyone, you can draw your sword and just start a fight. It's not necessarily the best thing to do, but the fact that you can is pretty cool. Because how many times in an RPG have you thought, oh, if only I could kill this NPC? I hate them so much. Well, you could in Ultima 3, and you can in Way of the Samurai 3, and it's very fun. But I'm not sure I'll LP it just because it is kind of a nightmare. Just the sheer amount of stuff in it. I may play it. 'Cause here's the thing. You can literally finish the game in like an hour. I can go through that game a bunch of times and not get all the endings. And some of the endings are minor variations. Like, oh, work for this guy. Okay, you all die. Work for him and then turn on him. Okay, you all die, but now you die heroically. You know? And that was one that really, really, royally pissed me off. Because that was one of the first real endings I got. And it went a little something like this. Basically, you had a whole bunch of people you were fighting. And it was a really brutal fight. And you just were... everyone was rallying to you, and it was really cool. It's like, okay, we can take him, we can take him. Ah! And you fight, you fight, you fight. And then the fight ends, and the epilogue is, oh, they were surrounded, and they fought valiantly, but they all died. And I'm like, bullshit, I was winning that fight by, like, a lot. I was winning by a huge margin, you know? And I could have been at that all day. I really could have. I was doing that well. And the fact that the epilogue killed me when I was obviously winning just really fucked with me, you know? And there's some silly options, like you can get a sprig of onion and kill people with that as your sword. Or like a radish and kill them with that. And there are, as I recall, 4 different sword stances. There's sort of a vertical stance and a horizontal stance, where you slash vertically, you slash horizontally. Ninja stance, which requires a very special sword. You just kind of do a ninja run. And sheath stance, where every single time you fight, you draw your sword and then sheath it again. Which I think is called Batojutsu. It was actually Kenshin style, hence Batosai the Manslayer. Because he was a master of that fighting style. Which is kind of a silly way to fight, but hey, if it works, you know? And it's a lot of fun, and it's very challenging because you don't really have time to defend. You know, if you fuck up, you fuck up. Anyway, it's a fun game. I don't know how well it'll translate as a Let's Play. I might not even be able to pull it off, but I'm willing to at least give it a shot if nothing else, you know? I mean, it could be a lot of fun. I don't know if it will be, but it could be. It absolutely could be. Do 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 do. La 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 la. Do 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 do. We'll put more of this cactus dye in here. I've been watching Markiplier play Five Nights at Freddy's 4. And after watching him, I'm like, wow, he's a lot of fun to watch. I'm going to watch him do the other ones next time I get the chance. Because I've been watching, like, the old Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't think it's a game I would enjoy playing. Because the jump scares are kind of bleh, you know. I don't think I'd get nailed by the jump scares, so I wouldn't be very entertaining after, like, the first 2 or 3 times it happened. But the story of it is fascinating, and it's fun to watch it. Like, game theory is the reason I care about it at all. Because originally I'm like, oh, I'm gonna blind this, everyone seems to love it. And then I saw it, I'm like, you know, this is boring as fuck. You know? The only real joy to be found in that game is by watching other people play it and freak the fuck out. Well, if I don't freak the fuck out, there's no point in watching me play it, is there? So, I'm gonna skip doing that as a play. But it's fun to watch. Hopefully sometime when I get my internet back, I can get PlayStation Plus back and start getting all those free games again. And just there are so many games I downloaded from PlayStation Plus for free that I want to do as Let's Plays and just never got around to. I'm working on Dead Rising 2, which I should be starting back up soon. Finishing Jurassic World, because I'm almost done, you know. Digimon World, I've got a lot of work ahead of me. Trying to get Mamemon at the moment. Kind of a big deal, kind of not. Harvest Moon, I'm in winter of the second year, so that's going to fly by real quick, and then we're going to be in the last year of the game. And Force Unleashed, I just got to get a holocron on, not Nar Shaddaa, whatever... Raxus Prime or something like that. It's where you fight Kazdan Paratus, rather. The junk world. The first time you go there. I'm on there. I missed a holocron. I'm going back to get it because I'm 100%ing it. And then I'm going to do the levels. It shouldn't take too long. The problem is the Force Unleashed. As cool as it is just, oh god, I have so many bad things to say about that game. It's tedious as fuck, it's longer than it needs to be. You could cut those levels in half, and they'd be fine. Plus, since I'm trying to 100% it, I'm doing the holocron, which means I stop every now and then to make sure I'm in the right area, and, oh god, it's kind of a mess. It's like God of War, but for Star Wars. And honestly, it seems like in every episode so far, I find something to nitpick about. Like in one of the episodes, it's why I like the prequels. Why? Because I do. I like the prequels. I enjoy the original trilogy, don't get me wrong. But I in no way consider the original trilogy superior to the prequels. Because the original trilogy doesn't have what I'm after. And I guarantee that 80% of the people who like the prequel or the original so much love it through sheer nostalgia. Not that there isn't anything to love about it, but they're like, oh, the special effects are so much better. No, they're fucking not. I'm sorry, but they're fucking not better in the original ones. They're, what's the word, practical. They're practical effects rather than CGI, but I'm not one of those people who... There are lots of people who hate CGI just for CGI. Ironically, my HeroClix judge is one of them, and he loves the Hobbit movies. Partly because, even though he can spot CGI a mile away, he doesn't realize that 90% of that movie was CGI, that almost no... Actually, I think there were no practical sets on that movie, and if there were very few of them. All the sets were CGI to the point where I've heard that Ian McKellen or whatever, Gandalf, broke down crying because he just had nothing to work with and he was so sick of the green screen. You know? But I don't hate CGI for the purpose of CGI. And my friend's like, oh, they could have totally did that. I'm like, really? They could have made the battle droids with as many as there were? That for the clones, they could have had that... Yeah, they could totally have that many extras. That were the exact same height, same voice, and all that other shit. I'm like, no, it's much better to get one guy and make him 1,000 times for a clone army. And as for the droids work better because they do not have a human body. That they have inhuman proportions. They're way too skinny, their arms are too gangly, etc. I'm sure you could get contortionists who could do that, and really skinny people who could do that, but I think they work better as CGI. Plus, it's supposed to add to the fact of wrongness to it, you know, because most people see clones as, oh, this is something we should be afraid of, this is bad, and I'm like, eh. But clones are supposed to be different, they're supposed to be other. Likewise, the battle droids aren't supposed to be people, they're supposed to be different, other, you know? And the CGI helps emphasize that. And don't get me wrong, there is bad CGI. I've seen a lot of low-budget movies that just don't give a fuck, where you can tell that CGI is just, oh, wow, look what this is. But he's like, oh, I like better when it's stop motion. I'm like, no. And don't get me wrong, I've seen fantastic stop motion. I've seen some of the best stop motion around. But even the most seamless stop motion is still stop motion. You can still tell. The best stop motion puppeteers in the world, you can still tell. Like, I think Valley of Gwangi had some of the better stop motion. But there were still little bitty traces of it. And don't get me wrong, you could totally lose yourself in the moment of, oh, that's a dinosaur, that's a real dinosaur. You know? But you could still tell. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just, I'm not terrified by progress. I have my moments where I just don't want to fuck with it. Like, I still don't like smartphones. My mom got a smartphone and the damn thing pisses me off. Every time I try and set it down, I happen to notice that it's trying to call somebody. I'm like, no! Plus, my fingers are too big. I keep hitting the wrong keys, you know? It's just, I don't like them. It's too easy to butt dial with a smartphone, you know? Whereas my flip phone, you can't butt dial with, not if it's put together properly. I don't have to lock the keys, I just slide the phone down. Well, I don't have a flip phone, I have a slide phone, where it slides open, etc. But it's like that. It's like a flip phone. Yeah, I've never, in the entire 3 or 4 years I've had these phones, never have I butt dialed someone. Because I physically can't. Because it's not that kind of phone. Anything new down here? Oh my. Quite a bit, actually. Quite a bit of iron. Kyrix likes iron. But yeah, I like the prequels, but here's the reason I like the prequels. And everyone asked me, and I think I have a very good reason for liking the prequels. And there are good reasons not to like the prequels. You can say, oh, the story wasn't great, or like the love story. Yeah, love story was god-awful. The problem with the love story was the fact that Lucas felt the need to take us on a journey to a place we were already at. Because here's the thing. In episode 1, I already knew, hey, that's Luke's mama. You know? Now, granted, we didn't see Padme's attraction to him, because she didn't really have it yet. But we absolutely knew Anakin was going to get her. And you could have taken the love scenes that were in episode 2 and cut them down to about 1/10 of what they were, and they'd have worked just as well. They'd work better because we wouldn't have been able to sit through so much. But, also, adult Anakin, poorly written. I'm sorry. You're supposed to care for Anakin, but it's really hard to because he's a whiny little shit. The Clone Wars is a must. You have to watch the Clone Wars to get the full effect of Anakin Skywalker. You just have to. It's not a thing otherwise, you know? Because that's when you get to see Anakin, the hero. Anakin, the chosen one. Because Anakin turning into Vader is supposed to be a tragedy, not just because of all the Jedi he killed, but because this is the chosen one. This is a good guy being turned to evil. And you just don't care because he's such an unlikable prick. But when you see him in the Clone Wars and you see him, the actual heroic stuff he did, like who he was, and don't get me wrong, he wasn't the best general, but he was a hero. And he did a lot of awesome and heroic shit in those episodes. And then when you see him and you see the tragedy, there was an episode, one of the best ones, I think, when Anakin gets a glimpse of the future of himself being Darth Vader, and he is so utterly distraught by this. His memory's eventually wiped of the process, but he is so utterly distraught by the fact that he could be such a horrible person as Darth Vader that it just shakes him to the core. You know? And the best part was, this is the episode that finally shows what being the chosen one means. As I put it to Skinner when I was showing it to him, I'm like, this is the episode where you finally get to see him do some real chosen one shit. some shit that even Yoda couldn't do. There were these three living manifestations of the Force. There was the Father. These are their names, by the way. The Father, the Son, the Daughter. Father was sort of a neutral presence. The Daughter was the light side of the Force, and the Son was the dark side. And I think the Son had Obi-Wan and the Daughter had Ahsoka, but they each had one of them. Who had which doesn't matter. And they told him, okay, Anakin, we're going to kill one of them, and you can only stop one of us. Which one do you save? And Anakin says, both. And he basically grabs both of them, the son and the daughter, they transformed to these bestial forms. One was an eagle, one was a bat. And he fucking force grips them and makes them release his friends. I want to point out, these are living manifestations of the Force. It's really the only way to describe them. And he just casually fucking force grips them. Not the choking kind, the, yeah, I own your ass kind. And basically forces them to let them go. And the Father steps in and says, yeah, you are the chosen one. Or something to that effect. And that's a moment the first time you see it, where if you're invested in these characters, you just get fucking chills. Because then you finally get to see why everyone made such a big deal about Anakin. Because he's a big deal. You know? So yes, the prequels are not flawless. Neither are the originals. But here's the thing about the prequels. The prequels give me the one thing I really want. What do I want to see? I want to see wizards with laser swords beating each other up. I want Jedi. That's all I want. That's all I care about. That's all I've ever wanted and cared about from Star Wars, is give me my Jedi. And Episode 4, you get Luke, you get Obi-Wan, you get Vader. There's my Jedi. That's kind of nice. They have a lackluster and, quite frankly, pathetic lightsaber duel between Vader and Obi-Wan. But, hey, Jedi. Of course, at that point, it's really kind of dodgy what the Force is. You don't find that out until later. Empire Strikes Back. You get a coolish battle between Luke and Vader. That was Empire Strikes Back. Return of the Jedi. You get a better duel between Vader and Luke. Plus green lightsaber. Gotta have the green lightsaber. Love that. But then Episode 1 comes around, and Episode 1, that actually is my fifth favorite of the series. That means almost dead last. My least favorite, Empire Strikes Back, because it's just too dark for me in a show that doesn't need to be dark. The good guys lose way too often. It does have some of my favorite things. Like, I love the snow speeders. I love the AT-ATs, the AT-ATs. You know, I like the Hoth sequence. It's cool to see Yoda, etc. But it doesn't do it for me. Everyone's like, oh, it's the best movie. I'm like, not to me. I like Return of the Jedi better. Because good guys, I like to see the good guys win. And don't get me wrong, there are things that I love that are dark as fuck. But Star Wars isn't one of them. Hell, I like Deep Space Nine because it's the darkest of the Star Trek series. I like Season 3 of Enterprise because that's when it gets dark. But not everything needs to be dark, and Star Wars... Well, it's kind of ironic because I do like Revenge of the Sith because it's dark. But there's more a sense of hope at the end because Luke and Leia are born. You know it's going to turn out alright. And you had amazing sequences, whereas The Empire Strikes Back... It's just kind of pathetic. It's like, oh, Luke got his ass kicked, got his arm cut off. Han got taken. They didn't win anything. You know? You know, the funny thing is, as I'm trying to describe this, I should, by my own admission, hate Episode 3 more than I do. Because apparently it's everything that I find wrong with Episode 5. And that's not fair, and I'm trying to figure out why I can hate one so much and love the other. I'm coming up empty, but I'm trying. Give me a couple minutes here. But basically, Episode 5, they lose too much. They lose too easily, rather. Because they've got... Oh, it's almost time. They got the Millennium Falcon, that thing. If that thing were fixed, the whole movie wouldn't have fucking happened. Because first off, they wouldn't have gone to Cloud City. They would have been able to escape, etc. But the rebels get their asses handed to them at Hoth. You know, they barely escape with their lives. Luke has to go to Dagobah. Cuts his training short, you know. We know that story. Han gets captured and frozen, and then Luke goes to save him and just makes things worse. I mean, compare that in Episode 3. They won a lot. Granted, they lost almost everything, but they still won a lot. Like, the Clone Wars was won. Dooku, in the first act, killed. So there's one of the 2 Sith Lords destroyed. You know, just, that's one less threat to the galaxy. Obi-Wan kills General Grievous. Let's face facts, without Dooku, without Grievous, the Separatists had fucking nothing. They had nobody of any consequential threat. Because by that point, Ventress had been kicked out. I'm not sure what happened to Dirge, but he wasn't a factor. Palpatine wasn't on the Separatist side. He ran the Separatists, but he was on the Republic side of that fight. So Sidious wasn't a factor. Who's going to take over? Newt Gunray? Worm Loathsome? No. Without Grievous, they had nothing. The back of the Separatists was broken. And then Vader came in and killed what was left of the Separatist Council. And he did it so easily that literally any one Jedi who was either a senior Padawan or a knight could have done what he did. Not to take away from Anakin's accomplishment there, but... So yeah, the Separatists were beat. The Republic won. And then they tried to arrest Palpatine, and he killed all of them and turned that into the Empire. But still, they won that fight. And then, even in the Empire's triumph, where, oh, the Sith have taken over, Obi-Wan crippled Anakin. He just destroyed him as a person. He made him Darth Vader. And Vader never quite recovered from that. Even, basically, he was put together in such a way that they couldn't upgrade his armor later. He was barely intact. You know, he couldn't move anymore. His limbs were artificial, so he couldn't use Force Lightning. All of his agility, all of his speed that he once possessed, and he had phenomenal speed and agility, were gone. You know, was he dangerous? Oh, hell yes. He was 4 times stronger than he used to be, at least. He was very durable. Since there was so much of him that was mechanical, it was very hard to kill him. Was he dangerous? Yes. But mechanical Vader was nothing compared to what flesh and blood Vader would have been. If Anakin... Let me put it this way. If Vader had been Anakin Vader and not Machine Vader, I don't think Luke could have beaten him. I don't think anybody could have beaten him. If they hadn't been on Mustafar and Anakin hadn't made that stupid mistake and got himself blown up in the lava, or if Obi-Wan just had been a little worse at his job. So yeah, even in their defeats, they had victories. Whereas in Empire Strikes Back, they were just flat out fucking beaten. What was their victory? Oh, we got away alive! Did you beat Vader? No. Did you beat Boba? No, he got away. You save Han? No, we gotta find him later, next movie. So that's the thing. I think that's what it boils down to is, yes, Revenge of the Sith was dark. But it had more lightsaber fights, I like that. It had Clone Wars, I like that. And the good guys managed to win a little bit. Not a lot. And again, like I said, even for all they won, they ended up losing almost everything in the end. But they still won something. They still got to walk away with something. Yes, Palpatine controls the entire galaxy now. And even Yoda couldn't beat him. But Obi-Wan crippled his apprentice. They thought he killed his apprentice, but still, he crippled Vader. So there's something. You know? There are Jedi still loose in the galaxy, including Yoda and Obi-Wan. So the Jedi aren't extinguished. That's something. The Separatists were beaten. The Confederacy brought to its knees. So the galaxy's united. At least there's no more galactic civil war. Well, there would be a galactic civil war later when the rebellion started. But for the most part, the galaxy was at peace for a little while. So there were victories. There were minor victories, to be sure. But there were victories. Tangible victories that amounted to something. And again, I got lots of people with laser swords killing each other, which is what I like. So yeah, admittedly, some of the reasons I used for hating episode 5 are the same reasons I used for liking episode 3. But again, I don't like watching the heroes lose everything. I like watching the heroes get into a very dark place. I like watching the heroes get to a point where it looks like they can't win, and then watch them win. But there has to be victories. It can't just be watching them get their ass beat time after time. That's what this is for. This is to mark where this thing cut off. Okay, that makes sense. So it's grown several stages since then. And again, in Empire Strikes Back, the heroes just couldn't fucking win. Their victories were literally relegated to, well, we didn't all die. You know? That's not a fucking victory. When that's the best you can say, you lose. You lost. I mean, before I cut this off, let's look at every thing that went right for the rebels. Okay, we got away from Hoth. We lost our base. Lost a lot of good men in that airspeeder battle. Probably lost a couple more on the way out, because the ion cannon didn't stop all the Star Destroyers. They probably lost at least a couple transports. Okay. But we got away from Hoth, most of us. Okay, Luke's training. Well, he trained most of it. He didn't finish his training, and in the end, he had to eventually confront and kill Vader. Well, not kill, but confront and defeat Vader. But that was next movie, so we're not counting that. But he got a little more Jedi training. He's a better fighter. He's got more command over the Force. Oh, and he lost his hand. So, there's the thing. So yeah, he's now less of a person than he was. He's missing a hand. And I don't mean, oh, he's lesser as a being. No. I mean, he's physically, in a very real sense, less of a person. He's missing an entire partial limb. An entire partial limb. Yeah. Let me just repeat that again. An entire partial limb. So he lost part of a limb, but he lost the whole thing of the part that he lost. Yeah. They fixed the Millennium Falcon. They lost Han in the process, but hey, we got Lando. We got some color in the cast now besides Chewbacca. Although, who knows what color he is under all that fur. But, yeah, that's literally all that went right for them. For every one thing that went right, 3 things went wrong. Or something to that effect. It's just, yeah. Whereas in Revenge of the Sith, lots of things went their way. Like, they killed Dooku. They'd have been better off taking him to trial, but hey, they got rid of a serious threat. Remember, Dooku was one of the greatest swordsmen in the Order. He was easily in the top 10. And because, and I'm not just talking against other people, but he was one of the greatest swordsmen they had, period, and he was a master of a style designed for swordsmanship. For fighting other swordsmen. So yeah, very dangerous person. And he was one of the few people who could beat Windu. The other one being Yoda. So, taking him down was no small feat. He could have killed a lot of Jedi. They killed Grievous. Grievous killed lots of Jedi. You know, especially in the Clone Wars cartoons, both of them. Hell, in the original cartoon, he killed like 3 Jedi just in his first appearance. He killed 1 Padawan. He cut up 1 that later survived. He broke the neck of another, a Syrian. He put Shak Ti in a freaking coma. And there was very little left of Ki-Adi-Mundi by the time the clones got there. And of course you saw him kill other Jedi in the actual show. Anyway, I'm going to end it here. This has been This Week in Kyrix. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.